Introduce yourself.
My name is Lawrence Hamm. I'm chairman of the People's Organization for Progress. I'm a candidate for U.S. Senate, and I'm state chairman of the Bernie Sanders campaign here in New Jersey.
All right, Larry Hamm, I know you as a quote-unquote grassroots activist, right? I don't want to call you a street fighter, right? Because your name's not
Street Fighter is good.
All right.
I like Street Fighter.
So we talk about this is America. We got Mr. Smith goes to Washington, Mr. Hamm trying to go down to Washington. What's going on? And it's not for a march on Washington; it's to go to Washington.
That's right, because it's time for a change. We have the most corrupt president in our lifetimes in office, Donald Trump, and our number one priority must be to remove Trump, and our number two priority must be to put Congress back in the hands of the people. The Congress, particularly the Senate, is in the control of a racist, elitist cabal led by Mitch McConnell. So we must take back the White House, but we must also take back the Senate. Not to return to the status quo, but to in fact bring a new direction to the United States. Returning to the status quo is not enough. Returning to normalcy is not enough. We need a new direction, and this is what this coronavirus crisis shows us. Our healthcare system is a patchwork of local, county, state health institutions. We need a national healthcare system. We need Medicare for all, single payer, universal health care in the United States of America. And some of the people who are running, in fact, there's only one candidate who is calling for that, who is running for the White House, and that is Bernie Sanders. And in the state of New Jersey, there's only one candidate running for the U.S. Senate who's calling for Medicare for all, and that is Lawrence Hamm.
And then listen, for years, like I said, I've known you as a grassroots activist, history maker, and you've had, a lot of times people think that things don't matter, but your grassroots activism has made a difference. You have made history. You have changed laws and gotten bad people who do wrong things for the wrong reasons prosecuted and in some cases put in jail, which is the goal, right? You talk about justice. Justice says if you do something bad, you got to get punished for it. But you've done that. And so I say all that to say, for years, we always heard about politics is dirty business, and we always hear about, why can't we get good people to run? What's a good guy like you doing running in a race like this, Larry?
Well, first of all, let me say I've tried to do the right thing, but nothing I have done would not have been possible had I not been part of an organization and a movement fighting for justice. Everything that people know me for right now has been because it has been fought for by the People's Organization for Progress, a grassroots organization that has existed now for almost 37 years, fighting for racial, social, economic justice and peace. So everything that we've done, from the fight against police brutality to the fights for jobs, peace, equality, and justice, has been through a collective effort of the People's Organization for Progress, and that organization has been part of a greater movement for social justice in this country. This is the great lesson of Black history, that in fact, we make progress when we work together collectively and when we unite around a common agenda. So my running for Senate is a way to raise in the electoral arena those things and those methods that we have used in the People's Organization for Progress and in the movement for equality, peace, and justice in this country. Now we raise them in the electoral arena. Yes, politics is a dirty business. Yes, we have a corrupt political system, but we must change it. And part of making the change, not the only part, but an important part of making that change is putting people in office, putting activists in office who are going to fight for working people, poor people, the middle class, who are going to fight for Black people and Latino people, Native Americans, and other people of color in this country who are going to fight for justice. So that's why I'm running for the Senate, really to raise in the electoral arena what I've been doing for nearly half a century in my life.
And it's nothing personal, right? I think about the deceased D. Beasley, former municipal council president in Irvington and also Essex County freeholder, Muslim American. And he used to always say, and he always preach, we don't run against people, we run for elected positions. So, a lot of people will frame it as, oh, Larry Hamm versus Cory Booker. But it's not about that, is it?
No, not in the broadest sense. It's not about Larry Hamm versus. Look, this is the great choice that we're faced with right now. We stand at a crossroads, and in one direction, people want to fight for institutional and systematic change that will make people's lives better. And the other fork in the road are people who basically want to keep things the same. They want to change the people in office, but they don't want to change the institutions and the systems that are at the root cause of why people are suffering. So I'm with those people who not only want to fight for better policies, but who want to change institutions and systems that are at the root of our suffering. That's why I'm supporting Bernie Sanders. And that's why when Bernie Sanders goes to the White House, we need people in the Senate who are going to continue to fight and who are going to support the policies that he's going to be advocating in the White House. Because if Bernie Sanders is elected, there's actually going to be an even more difficult fight to get those things he wants implemented in our country.
People thought Obama had a hard time.
Oh,
right? Wait till we do it, right?
Just wait, because yes, Obama had a hard time, and one of the reasons he had a hard time is because he was black, and because even as president, he faced racist opposition. He faced racist opposition in the Senate. He faced racist opposition in the House. He faced racist opposition from racists throughout this country, so he had a hard time. Bernie Sanders will have even a harder time because he's going to be facing the opposition of the people who maintain the institutions and systems that are causing the suffering in this country.
It's called vested interests.
That's right. And why do they call it vested interests? Because those vested interests, they profit from, they make money from the suffering that people endure. That's why they're vested interests. This is why it was so hard to abolish slavery in this country. It wasn't just the racism that said that black people were inferior to white people. It was because that no industry, no financial system was more profitable in this country than the institution of slavery. So now we see people suffering because of our healthcare system. Why are they suffering? Because we have a healthcare system in this country that's based on profit and not based on making people healthier. And believe me, they are spending billions of dollars. This is why the entire system lined up to prevent Bernie Sanders from being the front runner in the Democratic primary, because they know that should he be elected, their money making is going to come to an end, because we're going to switch our system from one based on profit to one based on keeping people healthy. We have to strip this thing down to its basic components, strip it down past all of these fancy terms and big words. It comes down to this: who wants to change the system to make people's lives better, and who wants to keep things basically the same, just switching personalities and individuals in office.
And change is like it's a small word, 6 letters, right? But it means so many different things. And like you said, people are afraid of change, right? Change constitutes uncertainty, right? And if you like status quo is certainty.
Yes.
We know what's going to happen.
Yes.
But change.
Yes.
And then I also want to get to this point because I'm smiling while you're speaking because, they say, what do old soldiers do? They don't die, they fade away. Old revolutionaries, to go into politics. I'm just kidding, right? I mean, because what you're talking about It's a revolution, and you're not talking about
Right.
blood in the streets, civil war. I got to get my gun and kill you to take over. You're talking about a revolution in thinking, and also in a way of revolution in functioning.
Right.
Which to me is consistent with who you are. And
Right.
you know, we talk about integrity.
Right.
This is Larry Hamm for Senate. It's still Larry Hamm.
Right. We want systemic change. You know, I know that a lot of people, not just the people who are in power, but I know a lot of regular people fear change. But I ask folks, look at our history. Look at the history of black people in this country. People knew that slavery was wrong from the beginning. Mm-hmm. People advocated for the abolition for slavery. And for many years, people came up with a lot of excuses as to why slavery shouldn't be abolished. Well, the Bible says black people were made to be slaves. You know, well, we making a lot of money from slavery. Like, you know, there are contradictions. There were slave masters who knew that slavery was wrong, but they were making so much money, they couldn't end it. Mm-hmm. You know, even the slaves themselves, many of them, you know, when people like Nat Turner and Denmark Vesey led slave rebellions, the number of slaves that actually participated in the rebellion were in the minority. Mm-hmm. A lot of slaves did not rise up. Mm-hmm. So this is the nature of things. So what I'm saying to people is, we have to overcome our fear of change. All of us today have Social Security, but when Social Security was first advocated during the FDR administration, people said FDR was crazy. Mm-hmm. When people said we should have an 8-hour workday, we should not have to work as long as the boss says. People said those people were crazy. Mm-hmm. But 8-hour workday is normal. Social Security is normal. We are the only advanced industrial country that does not have a national universal healthcare system.
You know, and the irony is that these changes that people fear and all the things you just mentioned, Social Security and the 8-hour workday, they actually made the system stronger.
That's right. That's right. And they made people's lives better. Imagine if you had to work 16 hours a day and not 8 hours a day. When they first came forward with the slogan for the 8-hour workday, it was 8 hours for work, 8 hours for recreation, and 8 hours for sleep. 24 hours, mm-hmm. You know, and people had to fight in the streets for that. People got killed. People don't know. People got killed mm-hmm. over the 8-hour workday.
Yes.
So this is the nature of social change. So I'm asking people, I'm asking regular folk, people that work every day, go to church every day, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Support the change that's going to make our lives better. We need Medicare for all. We need to double the minimum wage. You can't pay rent on $7.25 an hour. We need to have free public colleges and universities. We actually had that at one time. Mm-hmm. And people turned free public college into money-making college. You know, we need a Green New Deal. We're killing ourselves. We're killing the planet, and we're killing ourselves with this dependence on fossil fuels.
And one last thing, update on your campaign. March 9th was the deadline for petitions for municipal elections across the state.
Right.
You're running for national office.
Yes.
What is your deadline? What do you need? How's it going?
Right. Well, the deadline to have petitions in for U.S. Senate is March the 30th. But I'm very proud to say that my campaign yesterday submitted in Trenton at the Division of the Elections 2,500 signatures so that I could be on the ballot. I only need 1,000 signatures to be of registered voters who are residents of New Jersey. I only need 1,000 signatures. We submitted 2,500 signatures yesterday.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're about to be official, huh?
That's right. I'm about to be on the ballot.
All right, you got, listen, I mean, I'll skip hyperbole. I want to say one last thing when I got you here. A few years ago, people don't know, you were in a horrible car accident.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you what I want to say is I want to say how I felt. How I,
mm-hmm.
who is not you, who was not a victim of the car accident, felt. I got scared when you had that car accident. I said, wow, Larry Hamm might be dying.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And I said, wow, that would be a huge loss in so many different ways. Right? And so in terms of, you know, keeping you healthy and having you here around to go. And lo and behold, you survived, you pulled through, and here you are today.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so listen, like I said about you know, people might question your age, you know, who might question the durability. Like I said, to me, the fact that you're here
Right.
is...
Well, I thank God that I survived that accident I had.
What year was that, do you remember?
That was 2014. I had 17 of 24 ribs broken, broken arm, collapsed lung, blood-filled lung, lacerated liver, punctured spleen.
Yes.
I actually flatlined twice, and they brought me back twice. So I'm glad to be here. I thank God. I thank all the people that prayed for me and wished me a full and speedy recovery. And I'm glad to be here today.
And we talk about making the most of the time you got, right?
That's right.